Britain has produced a lot of great Steves. Hawking, Gerard, Seagal. But here is my favourite, Steve Fry! That's a hell of a reaction, sir.
Well, they're very nice people, aren't they?
I was talking about all that kid stuff there. Now, you don't have kids, but you've got, like, a squillion godchildren, haven't you?
Yes, I've got a lot of godchildren.
How many have you got?
13, I think.
13?
Yeah, some nephews and so on. It was wonderful watching children grow up, especially if they're not your own. You can just hand them back. But buying presents is a nightmare because I lose track of what age they are. And so, you know, I'm getting them... their first visit to a brothel when they're 5 instead of when they're 15. Obviously, that's what a godfather is supposed to do, I think.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes,
You take a nephew to... In you go, there you
Yes.
are. And you pay for them, and then you wait for them to come out 3 minutes later. And that's part of your job done as a godfather, I believe.
It's the decent thing to do.
I believe it is. To be honest, I think buying presents for children is one of the most pleasurable things you can do. It really is. Fabulous. I do this, or did rather, these Harry Potter books on audio.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, I know. Right. But it does mean... The other day, a man shouted at me right across the street in the middle of London, "My children go to bed with you!" Going, could you not please shout that out in the street? It just doesn't come over well. It was one of the oddest gigs, if one can call it that, because... you know, I've read books before for tape or CD, and now, of course, for MP3. And my agent called me up and said, "Oh, there's a children's book." And I had, like, a couple of days off the following week, and I said, "Well, that's fine, because a children's book is usually half a day, you know." And the rabbit was nice. It was a good rabbit. Night-night, everybody, and there's the story, you know, and that's, you know, take your money and...
Can I ask you just to carry on? I'd love to know what happens in the end.
But this book, this book was an adult-length book. Yeah. You know, 80,000 words plus. And she came along to the recording, Jo Rowling, and was an incredibly nice woman, wonderful woman. Very excited that this book was doing quite well. No one had heard of it. It was the only book she'd written. I say no one. I mean, it had done jolly well for the publishers as a children's book. And I wasn't quite this patronising, but I was quite patronising because she said she'd written another one. She hoped I'd... Have you done another one? Well done! Well done! Good for you!
But with these godchildren and all the birthdays, it must be hard to remember them, or is it because you have... I charge you with this, sir.
There's an app for that.
You have an incredible memory.
Ah, no, I do have a... Yes, I suppose I do.
Where does this memory come from?
I don't know.
Can you remember?
It's a kind of mental stickiness. Things stick, and you can't... It's not an active process. I certainly don't have a mnemonic system, or I don't sit down and practice it. I can't explain it. As you will know, Hesiod said that memory was the mother of the muses.
That's what he said. Memory was the mother of the muses, yes.
Which is a wonderful thing. It's like a way of mythology saying that all the arts, which is what the muses are, all the arts spring from memory. And I think that's true. But the point is there's different kinds of memory. I'm not very good at remembering the dates of my own life, though. I've written this autobiography, and which has just come out, and I had to consult...
Oh,
you know, almanacs and things to remember, like, joined Blackadder in the second series, and I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
What? Nah, I couldn't. Thank you very much. I couldn't remember.
You slipped yours in then under the radar. How did you come up with... Where did that come from, that meh?
It's a complicated
I think I do it better than you, in all honesty.
It's really funny. There were two things about Melchior. I don't know why. One was it was private, but Rowan knew and Hugh knew that I said, you know, my character has terrible piles. And so Rowan used to just quiver, because when I sat down, I used to go, ah! and just occasionally... But it came from this weird thing that I did with Hugh when we were at university, with Hugh Laurie, when we were at university. I had played Duncan in a production of Macbeth, and I'd found it stupidly funny to do a very old-style actor who would add syllables to words for no reason. There's no art, So the word isn't there's no art. You just go, there's no art, oh. Like that. And it would get longer and longer. There's no art, oh, yes. And one of the noises I would do would be a meh, I want to say, or whatever. And like an old actor figure.
Yes.
And it just became a form of greeting between myself and Hugh to go meh, like that.
I was going to mention Hugh Laurie because he features in the book. What happened to him? I mean, if ever someone went off the radar, it was him. For a while, he was the voice of the Andrex puppy and everything. And then, do you know what he's doing now?
It is odd that you should say that, because I know there's a twinge of irony in what you're saying. But it so happens that House is the most successful television programme in the world.
Is it? Seriously?
Yeah, the most watched television drama series in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen Cash in the Attic, Stephen?
But the point is, the point I'm making is, the country, one of the major countries in which it's least successful is Britain.
Seriously?
But if Hugh tried to walk down the street in Madrid or Rome, as occasionally he had been in Italy or Spain since things started, he needs armed protection. It's not a joke. He really, really does. In France, for example,
yeah.
House is watched by just about everybody.
Maison.
But in Britain, it isn't.
Maison. Oui? Stephen, oui?
That is a French word for house, yeah.
Dr. Maison. It is mysterious, no? Oh, limp. He makes that out in Hollywood. And, of course, you've appeared in many films, Stephen, one of which I have a slight bone to pick with you, because do you remember the Peter Sellers story, Life and Death of Peter Sellers?
I do.
In which you played the role of Maurice Woodruff, Peter Sellers' clairvoyant. Do you know who else auditioned for that part and didn't get it?
Oh, God, there must have been a long list of saddo, hopeless, useless...
No, I went in, I did what I thought was a pretty good clairvoyant, waited by the phone, and no, darling, they've given it to Stephen Fry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you know what I ended up doing in that film? And you may not know this. I played Dustin Hoffman in that film. Now, you may say, there is no Dustin Hoffman in that film. You're right. I got cut out. Frankly, I don't know why I've had you on this show. There was a little scene, it was in the script, where Sellers, when he was up for the Oscar for being there, and Hoffman won it for Kramer versus Kramer. And I had a wig on, and I had to stand there with the Oscar saying, I'm doing him now. I had to say, I don't believe I deserve this award. I think I'm not better than Peter Sellers, than Al Pacino. And that was... it's not a bad Dustin, is it?
It's a very fine Dustin, I say so.
And to make it worse, I remember one night on QI, you saying, I can't stay long. I'm going to have dinner with Dustin bloody Hoffman. Will you not be happy until I have a nervous breakdown? Do you do a Dustin?
Oh, God.
Oh.
No, sort of, but not a good one. Not a very good one.
Oh.
I can do all. Oh, God. You're trying to seduce me, Mrs. Roberts.
Stephen, you're a bit of you are what I would call a Twitter legend, sir. We have put the call out to the Twitter sphere for questions for you, so we got some tweeted questions later, and you, the audience, will get a chance to put your questions to Stephen as well. We'll meet C6 Steve now, but first of all, please thank Stephen Fry. Good, isn't he? Isn't he good? Yeah?
Really amazing.
Yeah, I know. Now, as I say, we've gone out to Twitter. We've asked people to tweet questions. The audience also are going to put their questions to you. Jonathan Griffiths is in the audience. Nice-looking chap there in there. What's your question, Jonathan?
Stephen, you're a very attractive man, even to straight men.
Oh.
And I was just wondering whether there are any women that you find sexually attractive.
It's a very good question, and the answer is yes. Yes, I can...
Call yourself a gay?
I've always called myself 90% gay. So there will always be 1 in 10 of the human race who are female.
So who does it for you then?
Well, there have been ones you wouldn't know in the past. Funny enough, I write about
Let's
them in
embarrass
the
them publicly then.
Well, one, she knows this, and her husband knows this, is when, we were talking about this earlier, when we were doing Blackadder 2, I found my makeup artist strangely alluring and likeable. And I said to Hugh at the time, do you know, I think I'm going to ask her out. And Hugh said, wow, really? I said, yeah, I think I am. And the next day, I was sort of sitting in the makeup chair. She used to glue on this big beard I had as Lord Melchett. And she said excitedly, I'm going to the races with Rowan next week. I went, oh, fine, no problem. She's been married to him for 20 years. And she always says, I would have gone if you'd asked me. I would have gone out with you. And Rowan says, no, darling, you wouldn't.
He says, no, you would not.
No, matter of fact, you wouldn't.
We had a Twitter question. This is Ammers1229. Please ask Stephen, is there anything he's not interested in?
I mean, in theory not. I have to confess, and I don't mean this as a snobbish, bitter point, I'm really not interested in these kinds of things, these people that I've never heard of in celebrity magazines or these X-Factory things. I just don't watch them. I find the whole thing embarrassing. And embarrassment to me is an emotion that's really quite strong, like fear or anger, and I just go like that, and I cannot watch it. Even on my own, I'm embarrassed. But if there's someone else in the room, I go, it makes me slightly shudder if I see Piers Morgan talking about something. No, it's not, I'm not making a smart point about Piers Morgan, it's the same, or I just go,
What was it you said on Radio 4? Go on, tell us
there's
that.
this show that you and I have both done called I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, which is a great old radio comedy show, and they have a round in it. It's like a sort of mad quiz show. They call it the antidote to panel games. And you have to find an ordinary English word and give an example, a new meaning for it. So, for example, I did one which was measles, which is what artists use for self-portraits. You see, it's that kind of thing. And countryside, which is to kill Piers Morgan.
Kind of circling around. Right, we'll have one last question. We'll throw it open to the... there we are. It's Rosemary. What is your question for Stephen?
Stephen, why have you not yet been knighted?
Is that for both of us?
Far be it for me to answer. It's a lot better to be asked why you haven't been knighted than to be asked why you have. It's not for me to say. I'm very happy being myself.
Are you one of those people who would turn it down?
If I did, I wouldn't crow about turning it down.
Still can't be sure whether you have been offered or haven't been offered?
It's a private matter between me and my monarch.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Fry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks as well to the brilliant Daniel Sloss here to play us out with That's All. It's C6 Steve.